Hello dear viewers and welcome back to our channel. Picture this, England's rolling hills baked to a pale straw by weeks of relentless sun, garden hoses hanging limp like forbidden fruit, and the hummingbirds of modern life, sprinklers, paddling pool pumps, car wash jets, falling abruptly silent. Now imagine the camera swooping over two very different royal estates. At Highgrove, King Charles III stands in his walled kitchen garden, brow creased, beloved secretar's idol in gloved hand, pondering how to keep decades of lovingly cultivated heritage roses alive without a single, lawful drop from his trusty hose. Meanwhile, just 70 miles away, Prince William and Princess Catherine watch their children kick a football across the lush lawns of Adelaide Cottage, sprinklers ticking quietly in the background, as the hosepipe band stops precisely at the neighbouring postcode. Same summer, same drought, two very different destinies, all because of an invisible line on a map. Tonight we dig deep into that unlikely contrast, exploring how a quirk of geography has split the royal family into drought haves and have-nots, what it means for the king's eco-legacy, and why neighbours watching from behind clipped hedges can't help feeling a twinge of schadenfreude. But first, let's set the stage. A nation turns brown. Meteorologists are unanimous. This could be one of the driest English summers since records began in 1911. Reservoirs resemble cracked porcelain bowls, rivers shrink to meandering trickles, and parish councils cancel the annual flower shows for fear the blooms will hardly bloom. Against that backdrop, Thames Water, under pressure from the Environment Agency and no small measure of public outrage over leakage rates, has pressed the panic button. From Tuesday, July 22nd, a hosepipe ban will blanket Oxfordshire, Gloucestershire, most of Wiltshire, and those three precise Berkshire postcodes OX9, RG4, RG8, and RG9. Break the rules and you risk a £1,000 fine, as some even royals prefer not to fritter away on petunias. The banned list reads like a domestic to-do that suddenly can't be done: watering flower beds, filling paddling pools, topping up ornamental fountains, jet-washing terracotta patios, rinsing the rolls after a muddy country spin. Residents are urged to let lawns go golden, reuse dishwater, or, like thrifty neighbour Joanne Millod, collect every last raindrop in barrels and pray August brings relief. The royal estates, gardening soul versus postcode luck. If there is one monarch in modern memory for whom a hosepipe ban cuts to the quick, it is King Charles III. Highgrove, his cherished Gloucestershire retreat, is more than a stately playground. It's the physical manifesto of his lifelong commitment to organic agriculture and environmental stewardship. There is the Time Walk, where lime trees trimmed into topiary clouds flank limestone paving, the coppice, an experimental woodland meant to evolve naturally, the stumpery, where ferns coil among giant upended oak roots, and the kitchen garden, a patchwork of heritage vegetables he personally samples for seasonal supper menus. Every bed has been planned, weeded, whispered to. Now much of that living mosaic faces dehydration at the precise moment blossoms should peak. Add to that Queen Camilla's private residence, Ray Mill House in Wiltshire, also smack inside the ban zone. Camilla has long joked that Ray Mill is her sanctuary when palace life feels too formal, but the sanctuary's ponds and wisteria walkways are about to run decidedly low on water. One can almost hear the collective groan of royal gardeners hustling to rig emergency rainbutt systems and grey water siphons. Contrast that with Adelaide Cottage in Windsor Home Park. Same drought, different patch of grass. Because William and Catherine's postcode sits just outside RG9, their hose nozzles remain legal. They can keep Prince George's birthday balloons bobbing over a freshly misted lawn, refresh Princess Charlotte's beloved vegetable plot, even let little Prince Louis topple buckets of water over a plastic pirate ship, all without fear of a £1,000 notice landing in the palace post. For the couple known for mindful parenting and an outwardly eco-friendly ethos, the exemption is an awkward blessing. They lead by example in so many areas: early years advocacy, mental health awareness, biodiversity projects, yet the drought line spares them while hitting their father and mother-in-law hardest. It isn't favoritism, it's cartography. But optics can be as sharp-edged as any thirsty rose thorn. Charles' eco-cred on the line. For decades, Charles' critics called him eccentric for talking to plants and railing against modern agriculture. Now, mainstream science praises soil regeneration and organic cycles, validating the very practices showcased at Highgrove. The estate is open to paying visitors on select dates precisely so the king can preach green living by example. Imagine the irony, then, of telling those same visitors, sorry, the dry garden is unwatered, the thyme crisped, the vegetable beds bare. Please picture it at its best in wetter times. Insiders say Charles took the news with stoic resolve, vowing to use collected rainwater, mulch deeper, and swap thirsty annuals for drought-hardy perennials. Still, friends admit his crestfallen. Highgrove is his sanctuary and his living thesis. Watching it wither will feel, to him, like failing a final exam on environmental leadership. Public reaction, from empathy to eyebrow raise. Outside palace gates, sentiment is mixed. Many sympathize. If the king, champion of sustainability, is forced into water austerity, the rest of us should heed the alarm. Others mutter that royal estates, with private lakes and boreholes, have fallback options common households lack. A hosepipe ban hits garden-proud pensioners harder than nobles with orchard irrigation rigs. Social media threads sprout memes of Charles's wilted rose versus George's green pitch, poking fun at postcode privilege no policy can truly avoid. William and Catherine's delicate dance. So what of the Waleses? Courtiers whisper that William privately offered to impose a voluntary ban at Adelaide Cottage to avoid bad optics, but palace aides advised against grand gestures that might look performative. Instead, expect the couple to spotlight water-saving tips on their social feeds, rain barrel tutorials, kid-friendly grey water tricks, maybe a birthday photo of George proudly holding a watering can he filled from a sustainable source. They will likely invite cameras to document drip irrigation systems rather than free-flowing garden hoses. Balanced messaging matters when your father is rationing lettuce beds by bucket load. Can the monarchy turn drought to advantage? Royal watchers note a pattern: crises often become showcases. The COVID lockdown produced balcony sing-alongs and televised addresses. Queen Elizabeth's final years of limited mobility spurred warm conversations about aging gracefully. This drought could do the same, turning palaces into laboratories for water conservation visible to millions. Imagine Highgrove live-streaming alternative mulch experiments, Sandringham trialling grey water filtration prototypes, or Windsor releasing real-time data on rainfall capture. Such transparency could transform an optics problem into a masterclass in resilience. What happens if the drought deepens? The hosepipe order is merely stage 1. If reservoirs dip further, Thames Water can escalate to non-essential use bans, hitting paddling pools, ornamental ponds, golf course fairways, and even certain crop irrigations. A national decree might follow, sweeping in areas that currently escape. If that happens, Adelaide Cottage will join Highgrove under the spigot lock. Insiders already draft contingency plans, rerouting palace laundry to private wells, postponing major garden parties, shipping potable water for security staff rather than tapping municipal mains. More wrenchingly, Charles could see signature public events, summer garden tours whose ticket sales go to charity, scaled back or cancelled. A double blow: lost fundraising revenue and reduced platform for his eco-message. Local voices, the human angle. Joanne Millard's 3 rain barrels speak volumes. Ordinary families share the squeeze. Villagers near Highgrove have begun community watering rotas. One neighbour's leftover bathwater keeps another's tomatoes alive. Parish WhatsApp groups buzz with Lou flush to lavender improvisations. In that context, seeing royal households tussle with the same rules generates empathy. If even the king has to ration cabbage patches, says one Gloucestershire shopkeeper, maybe we'll all think twice before hosing the driveway. Climate and class. At its heart, this story is about nature redrawing social maps. Drought doesn't check coats of arms before parching soil. Water scarcity exposes the fragility beneath privilege. Yes, postcodes spared the ban look lucky today, but the aquifer feeding them may run low tomorrow. The drought reminds every Briton, from manor to mid-terrace, that environmental shifts ignore status. Where do we go from here? For Charles, the next weeks will test both horticultural ingenuity and public perception. Will he invite cameras to show how he's adapting his prized gardens? Will he release a statement urging voluntary water cuts nationwide? Will William echo him, bridging the optic gap by curbing his own usage despite the exemption? And how will the public respond, applauding shared sacrifice or highlighting every perceived misstep? Dear viewers, what lesson do you draw from this royal split?